welcome to the 5th Honor Flight of Home Marion. I am Margie Saul, the event coordinator. This is an exciting day to honor veterans for their service to our great country. Thank you to our honored veterans and veterans who are here today, as well as family and friends. We're pleased to have Beth Johnson, Executive Director of Honor Flight Columbus, with us today, and volunteers from the flight. Please follow along in our program as we proceed. It's wonderful to see a room full of veterans. Thank you. At this time, first of all, we will have the posting of the colors by the Marion County Veterans Council, the pledge by Staff Sergeant Gibson Logan, who is home from deployment, and the national anthem will be led by King Rollins, Director of Choir at Hardin High School. If you are able, please stand. Sergeant Logan.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
D-Day. And here with you in prayer given by President Roosevelt on June 6, 1944, to launch the D-Day Museum. Please sit and remove your hat.
In this poignant hour, I ask you to join with me in prayer. Almighty God, our sons, pride of our nation, this day have set upon a mighty endeavor, a struggle to preserve our republic and to set free a suffering humanity. Lead them straight and true. Give strength to their arms, stoutness to their hearts, steadfastness in their faith. They will need thy blessings. Their road will be long and hard. For the enemy is strong. He may hurl back our forces. Success may not come with rushing speed, but we shall return again and again. And we know that by thy grace and by the righteousness of our cause, our sons will triumph. They will be sore tried by night and by day, without rest, until the victory is won. The darkness will be rent by noise and flame. Men's souls will be shaken with the violences of war. For these men are lately drawn from the way of peace. They fight not for the lust of conquest. They fight to end conflict. They fight to liberate. They fight to let justice arise and tolerance and goodwill among all thy people. They yearn but for the end of battle, for their return to the haven of home. Help us, Almighty God, to rededicate ourselves in renewed faith in Thee.
We're honored friends and family. On behalf of all of us at Honor Flight Columbus, thank you for coming today. My name is John Shore, and I'm a volunteer with Honor Flight Columbus. I'd like to give you a little background on what Honor Flight is all about and what brought us to today. In 2004, the long overdue memorial In 2004, the long overdue memorial for our World War II veterans opened in Washington, D.C. Honor Flight got its start shortly after that in Springfield, Ohio, when Earl Morris, a physician's assistant and private pilot, started asking his patients that were World War II vets if they were going to visit the memorial. He heard that for the most part they were not, due to either travel or financial issues. Earl resolved to take these vets himself at no charge. His first flight in a rented plane had but one vet, but the word spread and soon he had numerous World War II veterans asking to go. Earl then got his flying club involved, and in 2005, the first Honor Flight used 6 small planes to fly 12 veterans to Washington. Earl made it clear to the other pilots they were doing this at their own expense. The vets would not be charged as they had already paid with their service to our country. Soon after that, the Honor Flight Network started, and we started using commercial airplanes to fly the vets. In 2007, Honor Flight Columbus was born. For the first several flights, we used regular flights and could take approximately 45 vets on each flight. After several years, we started using charter flights, and currently we take 86 vets on each flight, along with chaperones and support staff. To date, Columbus has flown over 9,600 veterans on 132 trips to the war memorials in Washington. And Columbus, thank you. If you think that's good, wait till you hear this. And Columbus is part of a network in 47 states with 128 groups. Nationally, since 2007, Honor Flight has taken over 295,000 vets to Washington, all at no cost to the vets. Which brings us to today. Our name is Honor Flight. Our mission is to honor, share, and celebrate our senior veterans. Our job, if you will, is to fly the vets to Washington. So why are we here today? We want the vets to actually visit the war memorials, but we also realize it is impossible for some to travel to Washington for a number of reasons. As Earl Morris resolved to fly the vets to Washington in 2005, Honor Flight Columbus has resolved to honor, share, and celebrate our unable to travel vets at home. Now, how did we come to this decision in Columbus? You have Marion's own, you remember when we started, Margie Saul to thank. Several years ago, Margie became involved in a light program in Florida. She approached Honor Flight Columbus with the request to do this in Ohio, in Marion. When presented with the request, the question came up amongst the Honor Flight Board of Directors: why should Honor Flight Columbus do this? You know, have a program in Ohio when the mission is to fly vets to Washington. The board was challenged. It was asked of them simply, why not? And if not Honor Flight Columbus, who will honor these vets? And if we don't do it now, when? The board vote that evening to initiate Honor Flight at Home program was unanimous. So an actual honor flight, what is all involved? You experience the early morning activities of flight day with the check-in, the shirts, and the pictures. During this program, we will take you on a visual trip with Honor Flight visits in Washington. As we do on the flight, we will have some surprises for you as your Honor Flight day progresses. So for all of our honored veterans, for any veterans in the audience, enjoy this tribute. We remember your service. We thank you, we honor your service, and we thank you for your service. Thank you.
John just told you how many veterans have been gone to Washington, D.C. After today, we will have, this program started in 2018, 2019, then COVID came along with 20 and 21. So 22 and 23, and today, we would have honored over a plane load.
Bluetooth carried. Bluetooth connected.
Next, we will have the Salute to the Branches by Jamie Rollins. You may sing along with the blue insert in your program. Any veteran in the room, any veteran, may please stand. If you cannot, wave your flag. Veterans, please stand for your song, Branch Service.
Thank
Our speaker is Colonel Retired Paul Pratt. He's in his 35th year of service as a teacher, educational leader, and was selected to serve as the 40th State Superintendent for Ohio, effective January 1, 2024. Prior to and concurrent to his educational career, Paul served a total of 31 years in the Reserves, the National Guard, and on active duty. He's enlisted in the U.S. Marine Corps Reserves in 1983 and was commissioned into the U.S. Army in 1986. His final assignment was the commander for the 16th Engineer Brigade of the Ohio Army National Guard. He was activated twice following attacks on September 11th, serving in Afghanistan, followed by service in Washington, D.C. He retired at the rank of colonel. Colonel Pratt's personal awards include the Bronze Star, the Legion of Merit, the Defense Meritorious Service Medal, 2 Meritorious Service Medals, 4 Army Commendation Medals, and several other state and federal awards. A highlight of his career was his selection to attend and subsequent graduation to the United States Army War College in Carlisle Barracks, Pennsylvania. It's my honor and privilege to introduce Colonel Retired.
Thank you, Marion. I've grown to know her a little bit over the time. She is a force of nature. There are people who you can say no to. Marcy is not one of them. Never in the annals of history have so many owed so much to so few. Those are the famous words of Winston Churchill in describing the debt that his country owed to those Spitfire pilots who defended against the Luftwaffe during the battle for Britain prior to our engagement into World War II. But whenever I think of honoring our veterans, those words come to mind because so many of us in this country owe so much to so few. And that number, that percentage that we owe our freedoms and the debt of gratitude to becomes smaller and smaller every year. I had the chance to talk at a Memorial Day celebration just a couple of weeks ago, and I kind of ran some numbers. And, you know, we talk about the lucky 1%, and the rest of us are the 99%. Works the other way when you look at those who have made the ultimate sacrifice. We've had about 1 million Americans who have lost their lives in military service over the history of our entire country, our entire history of our country. We've had about 550 million Americans who have ever lived, and 330 million of those are alive today. That means 0.2% of all Americans made the sacrifice that the rest of us, 99.8%, have benefited from over these years. And even the numbers for those who served, like we're honoring here today, about 5% of Americans have ever worn the uniform. After World War II, that was as high as 15-20%, 1 in 5. Now it's 1 in 20 who have ever worn the uniform, and it's down to 1 in 40 who have ever served in combat. So, Winston Churchill's words come to mind. So many of us owe so much to so few, and it's great to come together today to honor some of those few who have made sacrifices of their time with family, of their health, of their youth, to go off and serve this country in World War II, in Korea, in Vietnam. I remember picking up a paper. For you kids in the back, it was a piece of paper with dues printed on it. Government house, it was really neat. But it was back in, I believe it was 2012, opening up the paper and reading a story story that the last World War I veteran had died at age 116. And it occurred to me that there was only, from 1918 to 1945, that's only 27 years. And that was 12 years ago that I read that story. That means sometime in the next 20 years, those of us younger in the room will read a story about the last World War II veteran. So we have so little time to recognize that generation. So we have one World War II vet. Is that all we have? Do we have another World War II vet as well? Well, sir, thank you on behalf of the great. Our green vets are not young chickens either. If you were 18 in 1965, you're 77 now. If you were 18 in 1971, which is kind of that last cohort that got sent to Vietnam, you're 71. So our Vietnam veterans are in their 70s. Our Korean veterans are in their mid to late 80s. The next group to come after that are the Desert Storm. We have a Desert Storm in here? Okay. Those are in their 50s, so we've got time for them. I do look forward to those times when we start recognizing our Desert Storm and our Global War on Terror veterans. But we've got 3 other generations to finish recognizing. In Washington, D.C., in 2009 and 2010, I had the great duty of commanding the missile defense system that we put into place after the attacks on 9/11. And as part of that, we were able to twice take a cohort of our soldiers out to the World War II Memorial to meet Ohio honor flights when they came out. And it was really neat because Bob and Liddy Dole would come out. So Senator Dole would come out and meet them. And my combat patch from Afghanistan is the 10th Mountain Division, which is the unit that Senator Dole was serving with in Italy when he was injured. And I had always heard that he always carried a pen in his right hand because his right hand was still so wounded from World War II that he would carry something in his right hand so that people would know to shake his left hand. And sure enough, I was able to shake his left hand and get a picture with him that still graces my office. So, but seeing Senator Dole was great. But it was seeing those Ohio veterans on what was still pretty early for Columbus to get through. And I knew the Richards who worked with that from Arlington and worked with those early flights. It was a neat opportunity to see those veterans. But I'm so honored to be a part of recognizing the honor flight at home for those of you that have not been able to make that journey, but still owe our many, many thanks. So I won't go much longer. You didn't come here to listen to me. We came here to recognize our veterans. But one of my favorite sayings, when you look at somebody in a career, they say that, if I've seen farther than other men, it's because I stood on the shoulders of giants. If we have achieved much more as a country, and my generation of soldiers, airmen, Marines, and Navy veterans, if we achieve things in this world, it's because we stood on the shoulders of these giants who set the standard and kept the freedom of the West intact in World War II, in Vietnam, and in Korea, holding back the scourges of Nazism and communism. And we're just trying to continue that legacy going forward. But we owe so much, so many of us, to so few. Thank you, veterans, for your service. Thank you, veterans, for being here. Thank you, Margie and the rest of the crew, for pulling us together. God bless our veterans, and God bless the United States of America.
Thank you so much, Paul, for sharing with us today. And you mentioned a World War II veteran. I know we have one here today that is 100 years old, served in World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. So that is tremendous. Thank you. share a virtual tour with us, and everyone hope you enjoy the tour.
And as we get this set up, you guys are premiering this video thanks to Honor Flight Columbus. We put together a video that I did not have to stand and narrate live, so we owe it to Honor Flight and Beth. You're going to see her here in just a couple minutes for spearheading this project after many years to get this done. So I hope you enjoy it, and if you don't, Beth made it. Each year, we take between 6 to 12 trips to visit the memorials. Our one-day trip leaves on a charter flight from John Glenn Columbus International Airport early on Thursday. After landing in Washington, we travel on 3 tour buses to visit the memorials. We stop at the Navy Memorial on Pennsylvania Avenue in downtown D.C. This memorial contains water from all 7 oceans. And the lone sailor holds watch. As we drive around Washington, we go past the White House and the Capitol. On to the World War II Memorial. The arches for the Atlantic and Pacific campaigns dominate the memorial. The Praise of Freedom Wall of Stars visually represents the cost of World War II. Each star on the wall represents 100 Americans who died or remained missing. There are over 4,000 stars. Over 400,000 made the ultimate sacrifice. Wrapping around the memorial are 56 towers representing the 48 states and territories during the war. Opposite the Freedom Wall are the bas-reliefs depicting the all-out mobilization of American agricultural, industrial, military, and human resources during the war. A beautiful fountain is in the middle. And of course, Kilroy made it to the memorial. After the World War II memorial, we traveled to the Lincoln Memorial. 8 years in building, this memorial opened in 1922. We find that quite a few of the vets have never visited the memorial. So if time permits, we trek up the steps or the elevator. Adjacent to the Lincoln Memorial and next to the reflecting pool is the Korean Memorial. The Korean Memorial has 19 soldier statues representing all branches of the service. They are dressed to depict the cold winds blowing in Korea. At the Korean Memorial, we honor the over 36,000 Americans who died in hostile actions during the Korean War. Of these, over 8,000 are listed as missing in action or buried at sea. other side of the reflecting pool is the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. The wall contains the names of over 58,000 Americans either killed or missing in action. Also part of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial is the three-soldier statue and the Vietnam Women's Memorial. Always in our view is the Washington Monument. Taking over 20 years to build, it opened in 1877. Next stop is the newest Armed Forces Memorial, the Air Force Memorial. This memorial was built in 2006. Good thing, as it is in the flight path of the airplanes that flew to the Pentagon on 9/11. Over 200 feet tall, the three spires dominate the landscape adjacent to Arlington and the Pentagon. For his inspiration, the architect's design uses the contrails of the Air Force Thunderbirds as they peel back in a precision bomb burst maneuver. Our next stop is Arlington National Cemetery, where Honor Flight is the only group permitted to take our tour buses inside. We may visit a popular gravesite or witness a funeral service at the cemetery. The highlight is the visit to the amphitheater, where we watch the changing of the guard. Very emotional. This is time for all to reflect. A tribute to the Marines, the Iwo Jima Memorial sits adjacent to Arlington National Cemetery. This iconic memorial depicts the famous flag raising during the battle on Iwo. During the end of our tours, we visit the Military Women's Memorial. Located at the entrance to Arlington National Cemetery, this is the nation's only major national memorial to honor all women who have defended the nation. perfect venue to reflect on what we've seen and the new friendships we have enjoyed. We fit in as much as we can during the day. The Women's Memorial provides a beautiful view of the Lincoln Memorial in one direction and the National Cemetery in the other. After this whirlwind tour, it's back to the airplane for the trip home. It was a long day full of memories. Thank you.
On honor flight, a highlight of the day is mail call. At this time, I would like to introduce Beth Johnson, who's the Executive Director of Honor Flight Columbus, and she is absolutely wonderful to work with. I'm glad that we can offer this program for veterans. And so she is going to come forward, we're going to do mail call, and other volunteers from Honor Flight Columbus are here today. Well, I am honored to be here with all of you. As John and Margie have said, Honor Flight Columbus, our mission is to honor, share, and celebrate. We do that by flying senior veterans to DC, but we are well aware that there are some that cannot. You all deserve to be honored, shared, and celebrated. So that's the reason why we are so supportive of Margie's at-home program. So I, on behalf of the board of directors and the staff of Honor Flight, thank you so much, Margie, for all of your work with this program. And she did mention that as of today, it would be a plane full. It's a plane and a quarter. There's 115 veterans that we have served at the at-home program. So thank you. You and Fred both deserve a round of applause for all of your work. So on an honor flight, when we get back to Columbus, we have a surprise for our vets, and this is what we have for you too. When you were in the service, mail call from home, that was your lifeline. That was your way to connect with family at home. Of course, we didn't have FaceTime and emails and technology that we have now, so you relied heavily on the mail from home. So right now, each of you, I have my Honor Flight volunteers over here, so we are gonna do an at-home mail call for you. So when your name is announced, if you can just raise your hand, and then our volunteers are going to present you with your mail. If we could just hold applause until the very end, because when I announce the name, as they're walking to you, I'm going to tell a little bit about the veteran. So first we have John Anspaugh. Mr. Anspaugh served during the Vietnam era in the Army. He was stationed at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. He was a quartermaster supplier. John, thank you for your service and welcome home. Next we have Jim Bailey. Jim Bailey. Raise your hand high. Oh, there you go. Mr. Bailey served during the Vietnam era in the Army. He was in Korea, started in infantry, and moved to military police with sentry dogs. Thank you for your service, Jim, and welcome home. Next, we have Dale Baker. Dale Baker. Mr. Baker served during the Vietnam era in the Navy. He was at boot camp in San Diego, California, a machinist mate A school in Great Lakes, Illinois. He reclassified as an engine man and transferred to the fleet ship USS L.Y. Spear, Fast Attack Subtender. Thank you for your service, Dale, and welcome home. Next, we have Jake Beck. Jake, down here in front, Mr. Beck served during the Korea era in the Army. He was at basic training at Fort Knox, and he served as a carpenter in Alaska. Thank you for your service, Jake. Next, we have Rick Bingley. Rick, back there in the center. Mr. Bingley served during the Vietnam era and after until 1976 in the Navy. He was on the USS America, B&A crane, and operated boats. Thank you for your service, Rick. And welcome home. Next, we have Gene Booker. Mr. Booker served during the Vietnam era in the Air Force. Gene, where are we at? Right back there in the center. Mr. Booker served during the Vietnam era in the Air Force. He was a combat engineer called Red Horse. Training was in Florida, and he worked on Navy seas. Thank you for your service. Next, we have Joe Kalina. Is that how you say it? Kalinda, I am so sorry. Joe, he served World War II, Korea, and Vietnam with 21 years of service in the Army. During World War II, Joe was deployed to England and then sent to France and Belgium. He was in Germany and also in Puerto Rico. Joe worked at the base post office. Thank you for your service, Joe, and welcome home. Next, we have Vaughn Corwin. Mr. Corwin served during the Vietnam era in the Army. He was in Anchorage, Alaska, and then worked for the Corps of Engineers. He worked in the motor pool working on generators and trucks. Thank you for your service, Vaughn, and welcome home. Next, we have Pat Dawson. Mr. Dawson served during the Vietnam era in the Navy. He was on the Atlantic Fleet and was a hospital corpsman. Thank you for your service, Pat, and welcome home. Next is James Ferguson. Mr. Ferguson served during World War II in the Army, was at Fort Meade in 1945, and then served in 1947 in Japan and Korea as a military police. Thank you for your service, James, and welcome home. Next, we have Wayne France. Mr. France served during the Vietnam era in the Army. He was an infantry leader and a company counselor. Thank you for your service, Wayne, and welcome home. Next, we have Alita Gibb. Is that how you say your last name, Alita? That's perfect. Alita served during post-Vietnam from 1976 to 1977 in the Army. Went to Fort McClellan, Alabama. And she was supply unit specialist. She assisted the medical personnel while she was a patient in the hospital. Next, we have Russ Gorel. Russ, right there in the center. Russ served during the Vietnam era in the Air Force. He was a jet mechanic, a technician, sergeant in Taiwan, Japan, New Mexico, and Louisiana. Thank you for your service, Russ, and welcome home. Next, we have Jim Grutter. Jim served during the Cold War in 1955 and 1961 and was in Vietnam in the Army. He went to Fort Benning, Georgia. He was a wheel and track mechanic in Germany. Thank you for your service, Jim, and welcome home. Next, we have Gary Hayden. Gary served during the Vietnam era in the Army. Basic training was at Fort Dix, New Jersey, and then advanced to infantry in Oklahoma. He went to Fort Hood, Texas, and was a military policeman. Thank you for your service, Gary, and welcome home. Next, we have Nancy, is it Hollister? So sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. So Nancy served during the Vietnam era. Basic training was at Fort McClellan, Alabama. She had first aid training and then was at Fort Dix, New Jersey, and did photography. So thank you for your service, Nancy, and welcome home. Next, we have Mike Horner. Mike served during the Vietnam era in the Marines. He was stationed in Lac Phong, Vietnam. He lived in a village and stood radio watch during the day and patrol at night. Thank you for your service, Mike, and welcome home. Next, we have Steve Howe. Steve served during the Vietnam era in the Army. He was with the 101st Airborne Infantry. So thank you for your service, Steve, and welcome home. Next, we have Bob Howell. Oh, he's not here, my apologies. Next, we have Roger Lichtenberger. Roger served during the Vietnam era in the Army. He was a surveyor for the Sergeant Missile stationed in Germany. Thank you for your service, Roger, and welcome home. Next, we have Donald Luke. Mr. Luke served during the Cold War, 1957 to 1959 in the Marines. The Marine Corps base was in Quantico, Virginia, and he was a rifle range instructor. So thank you for your service, Donald, and welcome home. Next, we have Leroy Rivers. Mr. Rivers served during the Vietnam era in the Army. He was stationed in Germany and rode helicopters and choppers. He was a part of the demolition of ammunition. Thank you so much for your service, Leroy, and welcome home. Next, we have Phil Saylor. Phil served during the Vietnam era in the Army. He reported to Johnson County, Kentucky, and he was an expert marksman missile. So Phil, thank you for your service and welcome home. Next, we have Bob Sherrick. Bob served during the Korea era in the Army. He was at Edwardsville Air Force Base in California and was a SP-3 production control. Thank you for your service, Bob, and welcome home. Next, we have Bob Sisson. Mr. Sisson served during the Vietnam era in the Navy. Great Lakes, Illinois, USS America, CV-66, small boat driver and crane operator, and he served 28 years. Thank you so much, Bob, for your service and welcome home. Next, we have John White. Mr. White served during the Korea era and the Cold War. He served 1953 to 1956 in the Army. He went to Fort Leonard, Missouri, and joined the Corps of Engineers. First Arctic Task Force in Greenland and built roads to the Arctic Circle. He has been 3 times over the North Pole, built landing strips, dropped vessel into 25 to 30 feet crevices for over an hour. That's pretty amazing. Thank you for your service, Mr. White, and welcome home. And lastly, we have Barney Wagner Jr. Barney served during the Cold War, 1955 to 1961, and the Vietnam era in the Navy. He was a boiler tech on the USS Douglas, North Island, San Diego, and other several ships. Oh, Barney, there is Barney. Thank you, Barney, for your service and welcome home. Did all of our honored veterans get an envelope? Just making sure everybody got their mail. Enjoy those cards and letters from your family and grateful Americans. We are very honored to be in the same room with you all and have been a great honor to be here with you. Wanted to let you know too, if you have a veteran in your life that wants to take the trip, we do have an information table out there. All you need to be is 65 years or older and have full-time active duty or 20 plus years in the Guard or Reserve. Or if you would like to have an honored veteran here next year, it is June 7th, right here, same place, and Margie is your person to get in touch with to get an application. But honor, share, celebrate every veteran, no matter if they go to DC or not. That's why we're here. So thank you so very, very much, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much, Deb, and veterans, hope you enjoy all those letters. There's some interesting ones in there, so, as we were stuffing them. At this time, Katie Rollins will sing God Bless America at all veterans programs. We usually end with God Bless America. So if you are able, then Jamie gives you the signal. If you will stand, you are given a flag, and we will sing God Bless America. Okay, Jamie?
That sounded wonderful. Thank you. At this time, we will have our benediction by Captain Frank Hickman, a Vietnam veteran.
Honored veterans, I want to thank you for your service to our country. I want to salute you and welcome you home. Now please uncover Heavenly Father, today we honor each of these veterans, worthy men and women who gave their very best when they were called upon to serve and protect our country. Bless them for their unselfish service in our continual struggle to preserve our freedoms, our safety, and our country's heritage. Bless them for the hardships they faced and for the sacrifices that each made in America's victories over tyranny and oppression. We respect them and we honor them for their service. Watch over each of them and bless them with peace and happiness. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Thank you, Frank. At this time, we'll have the Marion County Veterans Council will retire the colors. Please stay seated. Those standing may be seated. Veterans who are honored today with the Unflagged Home Marion, we hope you have been shown respect and appreciation for your service. We hope this will be a memorable day. This program is being made possible by the contributors listed in your program, and a special thanks on the back of your program and many volunteers. I'd like to give a special thank you to my husband. We plan to have the next Honor Flight at Home Marion next year on June 7th. There is an information table outside in the hall about this program and Honor Flight Columbus. My contact information is on a card on the table as well as page 3 of your program today. We need your help in locating veterans to be honored. And as I mentioned, as of today, we have honored over a plane load of veterans. But one of the things that is hardest this year was many of you are not on social media. So how do you get the word out? So I was on radio stations, TV stations, the papers, some of that, no longer people get the newspaper. So I have traveled around. In fact, today we have 2 veterans in Zanesville. My husband and I went to Zanesville at breakfast, got up very early. We're there at 8 o'clock, and we have 2 veterans from there. This program is open to any veteran in the state of Ohio who can travel to Marion. So at this time, I would like for the veterans and those staying and sitting with them to stay in the auditorium. Family and friends, you will now follow Executive Director Beth Johnson and other volunteers of Honor Flight to the hall, and you will be given instructions on what to do. Thank you so much for coming today.
All right, we've got James Ferguson, World War II, Cold War, Army. James. Woo. Sherrick, Korea, Army. Jake Beck, Korea, Army. Joe Kalenda, World War II, Korea, Vietnam. He couldn't say no. Branch of the Army. "100-year-old Joe Kalenda." Donald Luke, Korea, Cold War, Marines. Pat Dawson, Vietnam, Navy. Jim Grader, Army, Vietnam. Barney Wygant, Vietnam, Navy. Russ Gorell, Vietnam, Air Force. John White, Korea, Cold War, Army. Vaughn Corwin, Vietnam, Army. Leroy Rivers, Vietnam, Army. Jim Bailey, Vietnam, Army. Nancy Helsher, Vietnam, Army. Alita Guy, Vietnam, Army. Wayne France, Vietnam, Army. Mike Horner, Vietnam, Marines. Roger Lichtenberger, Vietnam, Army. Phil Saylor, Vietnam, Army. John Onspaw, Vietnam, Army. Bob Sisson, Vietnam, Army. Rick Bingley, Vietnam, post-Vietnam Navy. Gary Hayden, Vietnam Army. Steve Howe, Vietnam Army. Gene Booker, Vietnam Air Force. Last one off the airplane, Dale Baker, Vietnam Navy.